UNM Mentoring Institute, mentoring in an interconnected world. Greetings, everyone. My name is April Vihilidal, and my presentation today is entitled The Enneagram Model, Healing Dance Arts and the Decolonization of Dance at UNM. Because my topic is the decolonization of dance, I'd like to explain what colonization is, what dance appropriation is, and then explain a little bit about the nature of the Enneagram. So, colonization is the act of setting up a colony away from one's place of origin. With humans, colonization is now seen as a negative act because it involves an invading culture, establishing political control over an indigenous population, the people living there before the arrival of the settlers. Colonization occurs when one country takes control of another country or region, establishing a settlement or permanent part of the colony in order to control the area and gain its riches and natural resources. Dance is a natural resource. Colonization refers to large-scale population movements where the migrants maintain strong links with their ancestors and former country of power, gaining significant privileges over other inhabitants of the territory by such links of power. To be blunt, colonization is to invade and steal what is deemed worthy of appropriation by the culture promoting the invasion. Now let's talk a little bit about dance appropriation. Some will say that dances should be shared, and the fact that dancers are embracing new movements around the world celebrating dances while others take a strict view, saying certain dance styles should be only performed by those of a certain heritage in an approved manner and setting. Whichever view you take, it is clear that effort could be made to value a dancer's cultural roots. This could be as simple as saying that a performance was inspired by a type of dance, rather than representing it and then simply taking it. Alternatively, performers could make a little more effort to ensure they are connecting with and representing a dance according to its true traditions and cultural heritage. As this is mentoring in an interconnected world, I reached out to Marina Megalalis, and she is a choreographer, dancer, and teaching artist from Brazil, and she is based in Los Angeles. I am inspired by Marina, and I now share her direct quote to be applied to the 3-day proposed workshop at UNM that I will be sharing with you today. She says, "Decolonizing the body through dance can be a workshop at UNM based on the belief that decolonization is an inherently impossible act, yet worthy of pursuit. At its core, it is a workshop that values embodied expression, circular, non-hierarchical learning, and the generative process. This iteration of the workshop will be part class and part choreographic laboratory. The movement class will move away from a traditionally European-centered model, classical ballet, modern dance, etc., and towards a practice that honors Afro movement principles. Dancers will be encouraged to cultivate an intimate relationship with the ground, mobile spine, an expressive pelvis, a social and playful improvisation, and circulatory movements of the body. The choreographic laboratory will be a space of instigation and discovery, where dancers will be given a chance to write, dialogue, generate, and share their own material about the theme of the decolonization of dance. Now let me give you a little background about the nature of the beast, the Enneagram model. The Enneagram is system of personality typing that describes patterns and how people interpret the world and manage their emotions. The Enneagram describes 9 personality types and maps each of those types on a 9-pointed diagram, which helps to illustrate how the types relate to one another through the pathworks. Stemming from the Greek word ennea, 9, and gramos, a written or drawn symbol, the Enneagram was born out of an ancient tradition. It was introduced to the modern world in 1915 as a human development system by the philosopher George Gurdjieff. In the late 1960s, Oscar Acaso, founder of the Eureka School, placed 9 personality types around the Enneagram model. Soon after, Claudio Naranjo, MD, and other psychologists in Berkeley, California, integrated the Enneagram with emerging developments in modern psychology. In the early 1970s, Helen Palmer, a student of Naranjo, began teaching Enneagram panel workshops in the narrative tradition. In 1988, she published the Enneagram, Understanding Yourself and Others in Your Life, a perennial bestseller now available in 26 languages. The Enneagram can be used for many human endeavors, from psychological inner narrative work to manifesting an event. I shall be utilizing the Enneagram for mapping personality types and for manifesting an event at UNM. So, the inner triangle of the Enneagram is composed of the 3 points, 3, 9, and 6. The personality types that I have chosen are representative of professors at UNM that have influenced me over the course of 6 semesters. Let me just go back to this previous slide and just say one thing before I continue. That what has taken me 6 semesters to glean, this proposal presentation offers a way for other students to learn the same information in a 3-day seminar at UNM on healing dance arts and the decolonization of dance at UNM with guest artists from the University of Washington and Kent State University. And actually, when I wrote this, the person who would be inviting is no longer at the University of Washington. She is now at the University of Florida. But to continue, the people that I have chosen to create this event are people that have influenced me and have taught me indirectly or directly about what the decolonization of dance means. So the first person I chose for point 3 is the Dean of the Fine Arts College at UNM. This is Dean Harris Smith. He represents the personality type called service, true self. Because the dean is the center of the College of Fine Arts, Theater, and Dance at UNM, he represents all of us. And for that reason, I chose him. I was a part of his CFA student engagement, and he is a person that truly cares about everybody, equanimity, and equality. Then we travel the path, thank you, Dean Harris. Then we travel the path of self-remembering. And for number 9, I chose Professor Donna Jewell, self-remembering. She holds the chair for the Department of Theater and Dance at UNM. I took improvisation from her. And from improvisation, you are centered in yourself. When you improvise, you have to be completely in the moment, self-remembering, engaged with your inner self and your outer self to experience the point of improvisation. And it's almost like you get in the zone, you flow. And so that is one reason I chose teacher Donna Jewell. The other reason is because she is constantly having us self-remember, why are we dancing? What are we doing here? And she is always saying, okay, well, what are you going to do after you graduate? Think about this. Connect with where you are now and where you want to be. So then thank you, Teacher Donna Jewel. And then from Teacher Donna Jewel, we go to 6. And the point of 6 is love, the universal self. And so for love, the universal self, I chose head of the Department of Dance, Professor Amanda Hemp. She is really the crux of why I'm doing this. I took dance pedagogy from Teacher Amanda. I took writing about dance from Teacher Amanda, and then Teacher Amanda had this workshop. It was a 2-day workshop, and I took it. It was called Becoming the Diamond You Already Are. And every time we started the workshop, she had this little ceremony and this prayer that had to do with dancing on the bones of your ancestors. Because in New Mexico, we're very aware of the indigenous people of this land, and especially at UNM, because part of the mission statement of UNM is equanimity and equality. And so I have a grandmother that is pure American Indian. She is from Kent, Washington. And then my grandpa is from Kent, but that Kent is in Scotland. And so I was torn between the colonizer and the colonized in my history. And so from that point, I've been trying to say, okay, but I didn't know the words. All I knew is that I was torn because that prayer was resonating in me. And that was some 5 semesters ago. And so this is the journey that I've been on, is what can I do? How can I solve this pull, this tug in my heart? And so then we are going to look at, from the permission granting triangle, which is 3, 9, and 6, which I'll talk about a little bit later, we go to 2 more triangles on the Enneagram, which are composed of 1, 4, and 2. And that's like the inner portion of the Enneagram, which allows for the introspective part of creating something or understanding something about yourself. And then on the other side of the triangle, the 3rd triangle, we have the outer triangle, which is the outer part of manifestation, and that is 8, 5, and 7. So let's just work on the inner part first, where you're going to be finding the seed and then planting the seed. So for the principal reformer, I chose Gregory King from Kent State University, Ohio, because this is mentoring in an interconnected world. So I reached outside of UNM. But basically how I learned about Gregory King is from Teacher Amanda. She sent me an email and said, he is teaching a class on the decolonization of dance. This was just 2 semesters ago, and you need to take this course. And so then I took the course, and boom, all the puzzle pieces from the last 6 semesters just started forming this picture. Oh, I know what I need to do, and this is what I needed to do, present this proposal. So thank you, Teacher Amanda, and thank you, Gregory King. And now we move from on the path of reform, we're going to go to the path of introspection, and that person that I chose for the introspective individual is Professor Marisol Encinas. Teacher Marisol is the head of the flamenco concentration, and she is part of the Encinas heritage at UNM, and she is a magnificent person. She just got back from a program in New Jersey where she had her abstract concerning flamenco and was sharing that with people from all over the world. So she is a very good example, and she is also the student advisor for dance. So thank you, Teacher Marisol. So from the introspective individual, we have this little seed now. We've chosen the seed, we've planted the seed. Now that seed must be nurtured. Then we go to the nurturing supporter, and that is Dr. Patrice Rapar. I took Healing Arts 3 from Dr. Rapar, and I worked on a project concerning the Indigenous people of Australia. And that tore my heart open even more. And Dr. Rapar, works with healing arts in Africa. And so she is also a very good example. And thank you, Dr. Rapar. Now we're going to move, because now we have this little seed. It's been planted, it's got a little fence around it, it's being supported, it's being nurtured. Now we need to protect that seed. So we have to move from the inner to the outer. And the outer would be to the path of protection. And that person, I chose the passionate protector to be Rejeko Dumbacheno. She used to be at UNM. She was graduated as with her MFA, and then she went to the University of Washington. But yesterday, I just found out that she started this semester teaching at the University of Florida. When she was at UNM, she was never actually my teacher. But my first semester at UNM, I saw, observed, participated in her choreography. I transcended. I literally went into a trance state whilst watching her choreography. And it was about accepting the rain, anticipating the rain in Africa. And it was so beautiful. And after that, we just had this soul connection. We'd always talk in the halls. And then when I had my class with Dr. Rapar, my partner and I interviewed her. So our connection deepened. Thank you, Rejeko. Now we move from Teacher Rejeko to the path of investigation, because after your little plant is protected and it's growing strong, you need to even give it more sunlight, very good soil with a lot of nutrients, and really good carbon cycle. So for this analytical investigator, I chose teacher Lucy Kalzakowski. She is the assistant professor for African dance, and you'll be seeing her dance later on. But she is really an investigator, because when we had our class, she helped all of us to do our research and find scholarly papers, because outside of actually the physical part of the dance, of learning African dance, we did research so that we would understand the essence by understanding the culture, understanding the people, understanding what the dances meant. And so this was her part in my growth, was teaching me about research in African dance. So thank you, Teacher Lucy. Now we move from the analytical investigator to the enthusiastic optimist, because once you've got this plant growing, you just need to feed it a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of optimism. And this, I chose Male Fanke, because he is the instructor for African dance at UNM. And when I took his class, I was just always so happy. I couldn't wait to take the class, because he was always just saying, feel the music, feel the rhythm. This is what dance is to open your spirit, to be happy. I just want you to be happy. And so when we danced, all of us, we were happy. And so then the Enneagram is like a spiral. So even though there are 6 paths and 6 points, we really say there are 7, because when you move on the 6th, you're really moving on a 7, because it's like a spiraling staircase. It never ends. It's just always expanding. So from 7 to 1, Male Fanke would go back to the principal reformer, and we'd have this spiraling action with all of these great minds traversing back and forth across the inner triangle, which is the permission granting triangle, so this event could take place and all these great minds could make it happen. So then we are going to move to a reiteration, a conclusion. In part 1, figure 1, you saw the permission granting triangle at the center of the Enneagram, which demonstrates the flow of those in authority at UNM concerning this project. They would communicate and collaborate on initiating the manifestation of the decolonization of dance seminar program at UNM. And now, reiteration conclusion, part 2, figure 2. The 6 points scale of 7 as the end is always the subsequent beginning of a spiraling process of manifestation surrounding the center of the Enneagram, which demonstrates the flow of those professors from UNM, UW, and KSU, but now it's actually from Florida. After the permission granting by the 3 administrators who completed the process at UNM, the 6 named above would then communicate and collaborate about the presentation of the decolonization of the dance seminar program at UNM. All these great minds would work together within the parameters for budgeting and all other important considerations after being set and clearly defined. Now, you're all probably wondering where's the mentoring? Well, the mentoring was, I learned all of this. It took me 6 semesters. And so in a sense, I'm mentoring all these great minds and saying, please mentor us so that what it took me 6 semesters to learn, other students at UNM can learn in a 3-day seminar with a 3-day advertising period, which would take place at the libraries. So dance students could participate in 6 different ways. First, creating displays in the libraries, the Zimmerman Library, the main library, and the Fine Arts Library. It's a beautiful library, beautiful view. And there would be poster boards, brochures, and also laptop, which would show the website for the event. 2, operating tables at the library. So we'd have a group of students that would actually take shifts over a 3-week period and be at the library certain hours during the day and give people brochures, have them sign up for the workshops and so forth, which brings us to number 3, encouraging non-dance students to sign up for the workshop and the visiting guest artist lectures. 4, educating non-dance students at the tables in the library about the decolonization of dance just by communicating, just by asking people, do you know what decolonization of dance is? Which brings us to number 5, creating a website for the event and teaching about the decolonization of dance before the event so people would have an idea of, well, why would I want to do this? Why is it important? Why is equity and equality important at our school? It's part of our mission statement. The last one, which is very important, I am a minor in psychology. So it would be creating an empirical study of the event to track whom, what, and measure the impact the event has on UNM students in the mentoring program at UNM and globally, since this is mentoring in an interconnected world. So there would be the part of the empirical study would have a questionnaire for students before the event. And some people would fill out the empirical study questionnaire who may not even end up taking it, but still that data would be collected, which would be very important data because it would show that they had to have gone to the library and participated in at least the first portion of the advertising. Then the last part would be the students with follow through who did participate would do the last part of the empirical study by doing the follow through with the last questionnaire. All this data would be compiled, and I will explain in a moment how that would work with my goals with the Mentoring Institute. Now, let me show you this brief video of Teacher Lucy and Teacher Molly dancing and drumming so that you could get an idea of what the actual dance part of the seminar could look like. And also, not only Teacher Lucy would be dancing, but Gregory King would be dancing. He's a dancer. He holds chair at Kent State University for dance and theater. So also Rejeko, she would be in this movement activity. So let's just take a look. Now, we talked about equality and equity, the part they play in the healing dance arts and the decolonization of dance at UNM might be summed up in these two quotes. From the equality of rights springs identity of our highest interests. You cannot subvert your neighbor's rights without striking a dangerous blow at your own. Carl Schurz. Do not call for black power or green power. Call for brain power. Barbara Jordan. Now from Pearl Primus. Why do I dance? Dance is my medicine. It's the scream which eases for a while the terrible frustration common to all human beings who, because of race, creed, or color, are invisible. Dance is the fist with which I fight the sickening ignorance of prejudice. So now let us allow for the mentoring of the decolonization of dance at UNM. This year, for 2021, I have offered this proposal. In 2022, I plan to report on the events in action. In 2023, I would like to report on the scientific, psychological, social research study in action that I will be a part of in the psychology department. And then finally, in 2024, the year that I'm going to be graduating, I would like to share at the Mentoring Institute the, I don't know what conference is that going to be. That's going to be 14, 15, 16, 17. At the 17th annual conference, the results of the research study and share video clips and pictures of the actual 3-day event and the 3-week advertising that will lead up into the event, and possibly share some of the website. Okay, so I thank you all for listening to me.